Good morning, everybody, and always a pleasure to welcome you on this cross-channel institute, I would say, session. Hopefully, we're going to have a live session in a very close period. Today, we have the pleasure to receive, I would say, a person I have a lot of pleasure to work with on a regular basis, but also I have a lot of respect and her views about the evolution of the relationship overall between the UK and France and at European level will be something which will be important. So today in our 30 minutes through the cross-channel program, we have Ilaria REGONDI. So I never talked any word in Italian, but this is just like that. So Ilaria, just quickly to introduce you, you're currently acting as a Trade Commissioner for Europe of the Department for International Trade. You love to say that it's an interim job, okay? But interim, continue to happen. You are an international public servant with 14 years experience in international trade, economics, healthcare, and development. You are a seasoned Whitehall professional with background in strategy, policy, and delivery at various United Nations and international organizations in Europe, in Asia, Africa, if I remind well, Asia, Africa, and in the US. So a true worldwide vision. You started your career at the European delegation in Washington, DC. You moved to Geneva. I love Geneva. It's a wonderful place. Worked at the World Bank, at the World Health Organization. Well, this list is very impressive because you're very young. So you travel all over the world. So we're going to cover many topics. We would like to have a discussion with you. And today, for sure, the main topic is going to be around the UK-EU trade. And I'm going to ask some questions, and if there are other questions, the audience want to ask, feel free to go through the chat. Before we're going to start with you, Ilaria, let me remind to our members, our dear members, that tomorrow we have our summer garden party that will take place in our new office on the 22nd of Rue de Londres. So I hope we're going to have a lot of attendees. It's going to be a kind of re-enter into the new life, re-enter into the pleasure to be all together and to see you all face to face. So hope you're going to be very numerous. And Ilaria, I think that you're gonna be there also. So very pleased to welcome you at this summer garden party taking place tomorrow at 7 p.m. So having said that, Ilaria, thank you so much. 5 years ago, your friends, our friends, the UK citizens decided to leave the EU. Okay, democratic decision. A lot of topics were discussed in terms of the trade between the UK and Europe, and everybody wanted to get the best deal. At the end of the day, everybody agreed on the fact that this deal should create a minimum disruptions in ports and subtension and so on. So if you could just let us know the underlying principle of this deal, just to reframe this deal or agreement that has been decided and signed on the 24th of last December.
Absolutely. So before I begin, Thierry, first of all, let me say thank you for this invitation. I know that the speakers that come into these sessions are super distinguished, so it's an honor. you ask a big question, so I'm going to try to break it down a little bit, and if I can, answer it in 3 parts. So first of all, what does the deal do? It feels like a long time ago, but I think we mustn't forget that the fundamental principle behind the deal, which we call the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, or the TCA, is that it's the deepest trade agreement the EU has ever signed with an independent and sovereign trading partner, which, aside from all the politics, I think signals the kind of unique relationship that the UK and the EU have. But if I may, let me step back a little bit. So as you said, this TCA came into effect on the 1st of January of 2021. This agreement that now governs the relationship between the 2 parties is, from our perspective, based on friendly cooperation between sovereign equals, centered on the principle of free and unfettered trade to the extent possible, and is inspired by our shared history and values. Which sounds like rhetoric, but it isn't, because if you think about what the deal is all about, it guarantees 0 tariffs and 0 quotas on goods. And as I said, it's the first trade agreement of this kind that the EU has reached that does exactly this. To go into just a little bit more detail, broadly speaking, it means continued market access across a broad range of key service sectors, including professional and business services. It includes arrangements for business travelers for short-term visits, for airlines and hauliers. From financial services through to automotive manufacturing, it protects high-quality jobs and investment, as well as consumer prices. And it includes, of course, a commitment to maintain high labor, environment, and climate standards, which you may remember during the heat of the negotiations was the crux of the level playing field question. That was a bone of contention until the very end. What I should also say, if I may, and this is the second part of my answer, is that the TCA doesn't just cover trade, of course, but it covers the breadth of the relationship between the UK and the EU. For instance, it ensures streamlined cooperation on law enforcement, so that we can continue to tackle together serious organized crime and counterterrorism. It also provides for future cooperation on emerging security challenges of the future and of the present, such as cyber, health, including on COVID. And of course, it supports continued partnerships between UK and European research and science experts, not only through Horizon Europe, but also Euratom Research Training Program and the space program Copernicus. Finally, and I think this is the third part of my long answer to a short question, I just, people talk about the TCA in the context of the volatility in trade figures between the UK and the EU at the beginning of the year. And what I'd say is that there's a continued global impact of the academic, combined certainly with the disruption that any big change such as EU exit has had. And all this has definitely contributed to increased volatility in trading goods across 2020 and into early 2021. But it's quite difficult actually to fully disentangle the impact of these various factors on bilateral trade. And as you may remember, there was evidence of a huge amount of stockpiling of goods on both sides of the channel in the lead up to the signing of the TCA, as firms rightly prepared for any potential disruption. And so we definitely saw a decrease in trade flows in the first quarter of 2021, but also an increase in flows in the last quarter of 2020 as a result of this stockpiling. So kind of putting that aside, it's quite reassuring to see that trade now is more or less back to normal levels. I think French customs estimate that the flows of trade from France to the UK are around 80% of normal levels, if you consider the effect of COVID, and flows from UK to France to be around 93% of what they used to be. And our own Office of National Statistics corroborate these findings. So we've seen a rebound. I think let's see what the future holds, but it is partially reassuring, I would say.
Thanks, Ilaria. I think it's always important just to step back and to have a global view and just to get to facts and numbers, because sometimes perception could be different from numbers, and as you said rightly, we have to separate to what extent the economy is affected by the pandemic, and on the other side, what is coming from this difference in terms of trading flow. My second question is for Ilaria. Europe is traditionally the UK's largest single export market. How would you see this evolving in the next years? So let's forecast, project for the future. And do you foresee a real shift towards other region? I'm interested to get your perspective about that.
Sure. So first thing to say that the importance of Europe has never been greater for the UK. So what you see in the press is absolutely right, that the UK is certainly looking at the growth economies of the world, like Asia Pacific, and kind of putting a lot of emphasis on those relationships. But what I would argue and say, as I would, is that this is not placing other parts of the world ahead of Europe, but it's actually complementing the role that Europe plays by emphasizing other relationships alongside that unique rapport that we have with Europe. Let me set out, as you've said, Thierry, figures are important. So just to give you a bit of context, indeed, Europe is our largest trading partner. 53% of UK total trade is with Europe. 736 billion worth of pounds in 2020 numbers. That is not going to change. There's a high degree of interconnectedness, as the members of this group know better than anyone else, between UK and EU supply chains. And Europe is undoubtedly critical in terms of imports, for productivity of UK businesses, for our consumption habits. I mean, if I just tell you that 57% of our total global imports are from Europe, and that 86% of our imports of medicinal and pharmaceutical products come from the continent, you understand the degree of interconnectedness, which we certainly hold dear. The competitiveness of our exports, to go back to your question, depends on the import of intermediate goods from Europe. And OECD data suggests that 15% of the value add in the UK's gross exports are derived from imports abroad, and Europe accounts for more than half of that value add. Nevertheless, if I may, if there's one thing that COVID has taught us all, probably, is that if you depend on one part of the world, on a handful of suppliers for your critical goods, whether they be medicines or component parts in the manufacturing process, you do so at your own peril. And so diversification, as we know from the finance world and from COVID, as I said, and resilience is absolutely key. And so I think the UK has taken a strategic view that now outside of the EU, it would take a more kind of diverse approach to its trading and broader foreign relationships. I think our new independent trade policy will reduce barriers with other markets, or that's certainly the aim, around the world. And so it is our hope that this will increase the appetite for European businesses to have a footprint in the UK, and continue to do so. And in fact, it's interesting, we're seeing interest from businesses in Germany just last week, where we had a big meeting, and major multinational firms were asking us for details of Australia FTA that we've just signed in principle an agreement with, to understand basically how they can make the most of these new deals using the UK as a base. And therefore, I guess I just want to underline that we mustn't see Europe juxtaposed to other regions, because I think that this can be very much a complementary relationships. That will not, you cannot change geography, basically. I think we are voisins, whether you like it or not, and will continue to be so. And if you think about the fact that our own trade hub in Europe, which is the structure that we have in place to support high potential SMEs, has supported over 1,000 SMEs in the past 18 months. And Europe is in huge demand and continues to be. And so I don't see any world in which that will change.
Interesting, because you just mentioned that we are not only voisins, we are historical friends, and we are partners. And you know, all the members of the Franco-British chambers are business leaders. So we know that on some specific businesses, we could be great partners, and some other parts, we have a kind of healthy competition. It's part of life, okay? This is part of life, and we have to deal with that. This should be always done with respect and knowing exactly where do we stand. And I guess that my next question is related to one industry I love, which is around tech, high tech, okay? You will not be surprised by my question, Ilaria. This is about, you know, a recent report by the British Investment Bank revealed that the UK was still leading the tech game, but has found a serious competitor in Sweden, especially with the payment with the fintech Klarna. Overall, you know, innovation in action, digitalization, numerization is really going to change the rule of the game for the future. And this is probably one of the lessons learned from this pandemic, is that really not only e-commerce, but digitalization of the value-added chain of all the players is going to be impacted, and I guess could be positively impacted. So the tech sector has been always a key asset of the UK, and I'm also thinking about software industry. So my question for you is, the overall the European tech sector doubled in value, its value during the pandemic. Okay, tech leadership is a real challenge for Europe, and Commissioner Thierry Breton, who works for Orange, for Atos, and so on, has an in-depth knowledge about this industry. It's really trying to bring innovation and sovereignty to the continent. So this is a topic that we have to share. Could you tell us more about the British technical sector, about its new unicorns, about government support, and what you would like to do? And question is, to what extent do we want to partner, where we can partner, and maybe areas where we're going to compete?
Big question, and a good one. Listen, for me, the tech sector sort of represents everything the UK stands for. I don't know if you agree, but I think about the UK as an innovative, as a creative, entrepreneurial place that is agile, modern, for lack of a better word, flexible, and has a bit of a flair for outside the box thinking and for, you know, pragmatic solutions, as we saw during the pandemic. But I think, again, to go back to this, the evidence to kind of back up this instinctive feeling, the UK has one of the world's largest technology ecosystems, and it has thousands of tech startups. It's a market worth 883 billion euros. London's got the biggest banking and fintech sector in Europe. It's the most concentrated cybersecurity market in the continent, and the list goes on. You asked specifically about UK unicorns, and those of you who follow LinkedIn, you'll have seen maybe the Tech Nation report that just came out that states that the UK has just hit the key milestone of having 100 unicorns. So more than the rest of Europe combined. Just to give you a comparison, Germany has 42, France has 22, and the Netherlands has 18. The UK therefore now joins the US and China as the only nations to have triple-digit tech unicorns globally. So I think if you put this into context, what this means is that not only is it a global hub for tech, but of course, the UK is the 5th largest economy in the world. And therefore, with its 65 million people, it's a major market in its own right for tech. You also ask what government support looks like. I mean, I can rattle off, of course, all of the different programs that we've got in the tech space. But if I'm honest, I believe that what tech needs and businesses need more generally, but you'll tell me if as a civil servant I've got this wrong, is the right business environment and the right business conditions. So the UK economy is, by comparison to some others, is pretty dynamic, I would say. It's not very British to be immodest, but if you think about the fact that it ranks 8th in the World Bank's ease of doing business, that's a remarkable achievement, I would say. And that has not changed, I should add. It's easy to open a bank account. The bureaucracy is minimal. The labor market is nimble. The talent pool is large, especially in the creative and arts area. And so I think this, combined with the fact that the government has a huge level of ambition in the tech area, is a winning combination, or at least I hope so. Just to give you one example, the National Security Strategy is investing hugely in cybersecurity innovation, with 1.9 billion pounds worth of funding just poured in. We have an ambition to become the most innovative country in the world and increase our total R&D expenditure to 2.4% of GDP by 2027, which is not maybe as high as some other countries, but is a huge improvement on the baseline. And so there's a real desire to invest in the sector. Whether we collaborate or compete, it's probably beyond my pay grade, but my personal view generally is that we have got to work together on the shared challenges of our time, whether that be COVID, whether it's nuclear proliferation or tech. It's not going to work on everything, and politics certainly get in the way a lot of the time, but we live in a very complex and multipolar world. So working out those areas where we can and should cooperate and honing in on those, tech probably being one of them for the UK and Europe, is critical. And I think as those of you who follow the UK closely, you'll have seen that we recently published an integrated review, which sets out as one of its key pillars the fact that the UK is dead keen on making it a place where science and technology are key elements of our economy by 2030. And we cannot, but what the review states, of course, is that we cannot do this on our own. And so collective action with our allies and partners, including our closest neighbors in Europe, will be absolutely critical.
So thank you very much, Ilaria. I just would like to expand your point, because you mentioned compete and collaborate. Okay, normal life, business as usual. I get that getting out, or starting to get out of this unique period with the pandemic, I think that we can, top of mind, and I'm sure you're going to share 3 key learnings. First one is that at the center of everything is all about people, and we have to take care of the people. And we all know that if we take care of the people in our business, it will take care of the business. Second is innovation. Innovation is embedded everywhere. What a fantastic innovation in action. Getting 8 vaccines in 10 months, where in the past to develop 1 vaccine, it was 8, 9, 10 years. An amazing innovation in action, collective intelligence, and worldwide partnership. So this is really innovation in action. The third is about, and we just mentioned it, digitalization is everywhere, okay? I get that I'm interested to listen from you if you share my positivism about my optimistic view moving forward. My forecast is that, and based on KPIs, based on facts, based on key indicators, based on feedback I received from so many members, from so many different sectors, from different regions, we are potentially in a period where the next couple of years, whether it's going to be 3 years, 5 years, will be a period of hyper growth, probably the same that we got after the Second World War. So I'm interested to get your perspective, your views as a trade commissioner about how do you see the next couple of years moving forwards. And this is one part of my question. Second part of my question is linked to that, is that on this worldwide economy, you have different tectonic plateau. You have on one side the leadership from the US back into the race with the Biden administration. On the other side, you have China with an amazing, I would say, worldwide power. So just getting back to this technology industry, how do you see the UK and the EU to cooperate jointly, to collaborate, to face some, I would say, giants that potentially could have a unique position at the worldwide basis, and would be great to balance overall a kind of hegemony on this sector from the US or the Chinese?
So I think predictions from government are always extremely dangerous.
But the reason I'm talking about my personal forecast.
I always share your optimism in general, Thierry, and I think you and I have had a lot of discussions before the TCA was signed, telling one another that we had to be positive, because if there's a will, there's a way. So that's my always my starting principle. I think on the specific question of innovation, digitization, and the kind of the geopolitics involving the US, I think things turn very quickly. We are just about to try to exit from a very dark period. And I don't know if you'll agree, but you'll have seen the G7 summit that just happened in Cornwall, where, you know, a mini deal on global tax around technology giants was agreed. Obviously, we're waiting for the OECD Global Compact, but these are major steps forward. You know, you have the long-standing dispute around Airbus and Boeing at the WTO. Things move, things are progressing. Again, if there's a will, there's a way. I certainly don't want to get into this, but there's been a lot of press coverage around the Northern Ireland Protocol and the tensions around that. Just this morning, you'll have seen that there seems to be a little bit of a truce, at least in the short term, around chilled goods between the UK and Northern Ireland being agreed by the EU. Little steps, but I think in the right direction. So we are seeing the prospects for global growth really drastically improve compared to predictions now that the worst, hopefully, of the pandemic is over. So yes, I am optimistic. We'll see where we get to. Optimism does not get you very far without the underlying fundamentals, but it is what it is.
Great. I could not end up this session because I'm just cautious of the format of this time. I'd like, Ilaria, and I know that you're personally, as a leader, deeply engaged around you know, all challenges we're facing around environment. So the COP26 will take place soon in Glasgow. And and I know that the UK has recently released its net zero roadmap. And from the EU side, we have the Green Deal. So I know that the UK is making a lot of effort, a lot of investment into the agri-food business, and we were talking about high-tech agriculture and so on. So I'm interested to get your perspective about the COP26 and in terms of cooperation between our two countries, because on one side, you are and your country is deeply committed to environment. On the other side, you know, maybe this French savoir vivre and I would say nice food could, you know, jointly work in a great roadmap or unique positioning of the market. So interested to get your perspective on that.
Oh, hi, Ilaria. I'm so sorry to jump in just before you reply this question. We got a very interesting question from Jeff that we have in the chat. So could you possibly answer this question as well, just after Thierry's question about the COP26? So Jeff, would you like to read your question? Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Ilaria mentioned as part of the ambition for the new world that's before us, the enormous talent pool in the UK, which is undeniable. But there is a growing bit of evidence that there are now skill shortages and the lack of free movement, which we all understand why it's taken place. Don't you worry that the skill shortages, if they amplify, could actually reduce the impact of these economic ambitions that you've been describing?
So it's a good question, Jeff. I think we've talked about it before. I don't know that I have a bulletproof answer. I think certainly the UK's exit from the European Union stemmed from a desire in part to kind of rebalance some of the kind of the different priorities that the government places on a number of elements of economic life. So immigration and you know, upskilling of its own people and so on definitely plays a part in the reasons behind the original referendum decision. Now, I think Lord Frost, who is in very close contact with his opposite numbers in the EU, will be having difficult conversations about this. What we all want is that for this not to impact businesses, and that's certainly once the kind of tensions subside, that's always the point of view that we put forward. It is not in the UK's interest to limit the talent pool. What it wants to do is just maintain its own decision-making and kind of sovereign ability to set those parameters. And so we will have to find a way forward. I'm not sure that that's a satisfactory answer to your question, but it's a fine balancing act. But I'm confident that because it is in the interest of both sides, we will find the right middle ground.
Thank you, Jeff, for you know, asking this very interesting question. I get that. Do we have, Diane? Do we have other questions?
Well, actually, we have yes. Sorry, we have one more question, but I'm very cautious of time. So maybe we can take the last question, which is from Robert. So Robert, I see you. Do you want to read your question? Yeah, and sure. Then we can conclude. Yes, thank you.
Sure. I'll try and keep it quick. So basically, the question is to do with the TCA and public tenders. So we've basically lost access to public tenders in France for where they've been limited to EU businesses only. And I was wondering if there's any discussions going on at the moment that would maybe reopen those to UK businesses.
So public procurement is definitely an area of discussion. There is not meant to be discrimination as part of British firms as part of the trade and cooperation agreement. So instances where that is happening, I would strongly encourage you to please get in touch with myself or my team, because that definitely should be flagged and should be part of the conversations. Is it against the current framework, or do you feel that this goes beyond what is meant to not be discriminatory behavior?
So it's not discriminatory as such, but the public buyers have an option to limit bidders within the EU. So if they tick that box when they're submitting their advertisement for the public tender, then automatically that pushes the UK bidders out of that process.
Okay. I am not a world expert on this, but it is my understanding that that is not meant to result in effective discrimination against UK businesses. Would it be a huge amount of inconvenience for you to, if I leave you with my email address, to give me a little bit more detail? Because then I would be very happy to take that up with Lord Frost's team, because that's exactly the kinds of things we need to be hearing.
Sure, of course, I can send you.
So I think just cautious of time, we took a lot of your time. Well, this is a time for me to conclude. First, to conclude, Ilaria, I just started to introduce that you were extremely close to the Franco-British Chamber, and this is the opportunity for me to really tell our members how supportive you were, and how you're clearly a close friend to our chamber. So thank you for that. Thank you for creating this unique link with the, I would say, the community of business. I get that just to conclude, we are entering into a new chapter in our relationship. We are entering in a new chapter from a worldwide, I would say, economic growth. And we are entering a new chapter in terms of, I would say, relationship from a geopolitical point of view. So we have to take into account those ingredients. We have to deal with that in a very pragmatic way. For all the leaders, we are, I think what is absolutely key is about ease of doing business, ease of maintaining the level of services, the level of transaction we have on a daily basis with our customers, with our partners, from both sides of the channel, and I would say overall within Europe. So many thanks for sharing your views. Many thanks for sharing your perspective. I know that you're a very pragmatic person, so if there are any questions, we will get back to you through the chamber to really share with your teams. And this is the opportunity for me to thank Paul and your team surrounding you that is very supportive. Teams, we know what we know, we don't know what we don't know. Having said that, it does mean that we still have areas where everything is not totally implemented. Let's deal with that. Let's be very pragmatic. And let's really always focus on the fluency overall of our, I would say, economic relationship. Having said that, I wish you a lovely day. Weather is not absolutely superb, but it's,
Very English.
the great weather is going to come soon. Again, Ilaria, many thanks for being with us today, and looking forward to see you tomorrow for a great summer garden party through a fantastic weather, an amazing weather. It's going to be a terrific moment, just the unique opportunity to be all together. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.